Good afternoon to you. It is now 4:06. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, top of the hour, John Vecchione will be with us with the New Civil Liberties Alliance to talk about a massive decision out of the United States Supreme Court this past week. There were a lot of them, but this one involves restoring the power back to you and getting them away from these awful federal agencies. John Vecchione will discuss that at 5 o'clock. At 5:30, Mark Hemingway is here. Another lie, a massive one, that the media has been telling, fully exposed on a debate stage Thursday night. Mark will talk about the current state of our press. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Hunter Biden has never been shy about using his father to advance his own selfish goals. In fact, here's audio that came from the laptop from hell of Hunter Biden talking about the role that Joe plays in his life.
He's going to talk about drug reform and any other things that I want him to. He'll talk about anything that I want him to, that he believes in. If I say this is important to me, then he will work a way in which to make it a part of his platform. My dad respects me more than he respects anyone in the world, and I know that to be certain.
Yeah, in fact, over the weekend, Joe Biden met with his family, the news media are telling us, to discuss whether or not he's going to stay in this race. And it turns out, at least among Jill and Hunter, the pressure is on to stay in and to run as president of the United States. The New York Times says one of the strongest voices imploring Mr. Biden to resist pressure to drop out was his son, Hunter Biden, whom the president has long leaned on for advice. Said one of the people informed about the discussions, who, like others, spoke on condition of anonymity to share internal deliberations. Here with more details, Garrett Ziegler joins us now. He's the founder of Marco Polo and a former deputy to Trump White House advisor Peter Navarro. Garrett, good to have you back with us, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. And I love that cold open. His voice itself, there's nothing better to hear it from the horse's mouth. I love that. You know, we found that recording that you played, Vince, on the iPhone backup file. It's an hour-long conversation. We were the first group in the world to publish it, and we transcribed it. And in that audio, apart from what you played, which I think you hit the nail on the head, it's the most important part of the audio. But in that audio, he also says Joe thinks of him as a god. So anybody in America who thinks this is just a black sheep son who they have sidelined is delusional. This guy is still at the table today, even though all of this has been shed, all the light has been put on his laptop and the contents thereof. It's incredible.
And that audio is not merely Hunter talking a big game to impress a woman, because Joe has said on a routine basis that Hunter is the smartest man he knows. The New York Times is reporting today that the president has, quote, long leaned on Hunter for advice. So Hunter's not merely making up his status in Biden world. He's confirming it.
No, it's all great points. And this is somebody, Philippa Haran, his interlocutor, who there is no evidence that he had a sexual relationship with. And so this is not some, prostitute that he's bragging to. No, that's a great point. And it just goes to show that Hunter's lawsuit against me personally and our group, which, by the way, this is new since I spoke with you last, the judge in our case in Los Angeles, who was appointed by Joey, denied our motion to dismiss and our anti-slap. So now Hunter is in what we'll call active litigation with us. His motion survived a motion to dismiss, and that opinion was written by somebody his daddy put on the bench. And 90 days later, he gets our case randomly, and I put randomly in quotation marks.
Yeah, it's really crazy what's happening, and definitely crazy what you're going through. You're on the receiving end of all of this political corruption.
And there's another litigation piece. I know people don't just want to hear about our legal travails, but just in the last 24 hours, there's new litigation from Hunter in New York State court. Our lawsuit with Hunter's in federal court. This one is in New York State court against Fox Corporation, Fox Nation, for displaying quote unquote intimate images. They're utilizing a 2019 law that is called Section 52B, and I have it here in front of me. And they have, first of all, the lawsuit is ridiculous. I have 3 points to make, and everybody should go read it. It's online. It's on our X page, Marco Polo 501c3. And, hilariously, Vince, he got Jesse Smollett's lawyer to file the case for him. Her name's Tina Glandian, and she reps Jesse Smollett, and she filed this in New York County Superior Court, the august institution that produced such people as, Juan Merchan. But this case is for 3 causes of action, one of which is violating that 52B. But that 52B private right of action in New York requires them to prove that the miniseries called "Who is Hunter Biden" was published, quote, for the purpose of harassing, annoying, or alarming such person. And they have no proof for that. Even though it was a quote unquote entertainment miniseries, they have no proof of that malicious intent. So this is more lawfare. And again, the only value add I can give to your listeners right now is that Kevin Morris, the guy who's funding all this, this is an attempt for him to get paid back because he realizes Hunter is not going to give up anything. Hunter's never going to pay him back. So this is a chance to go after a deep-pocketed defendant, namely Fox, and hope that they fold like a cheap tent like in the Dominion case. And who can blame them? They know they're not going to get a cent out of us. So this is a way for them to try to settle. Hunter owes Abby Lowell and Chris Clark, the 2 attorneys handling his criminal stuff, $15 million. He can't even sell 500 of his doodles for that much.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And by the way, like Kevin Morris has been buying up the art to try and give him some of this money too. So yes. Kevin Morris, just to remind people, everyone was wondering, how is he getting all this money? And Kevin Morris is giving it to him. Shouldn't that be taxed? No, they're classifying all of it as loans. In other words, with the notion that Hunter's going to one day pay them back. And you're pointing out that this may be the way to do it. They're going to sue deep-pocketed media organizations with the hopes that they can get a bunch of cash out of them.
Precisely. Because, when we told Morris this, a friend of mine told Morris this in 2022. He said, haven't you been through the laptop? The Bidens don't pay anybody back, even landscaping contractors. Hunter was involved, and the Congress just revealed his involvement in that case where they screwed over the poorest Indian tribe in the nation, the Oglala Sioux, on a junk bond scheme. Mm-hmm. And Hunter, in his reply back to the SEC, said, oh, by the way, treat this with confidentiality because my daddy, who's the VP, doesn't want any unwanted media attention. Well, in that case, they screwed over an Indian tribe. So if they're willing to screw over an Indian tribe, and of course Hunter wasn't charged, we never alleged he was.
No, he wasn't. But one of his business partners, at least, wasn't Devin Archer charged in that case?
He was, and he's getting resentenced next month in August. But he got a very friendly judge, the sister of Dan Abrams, a left-wing legal commentator in New York City who you know of and who probably many of your viewers and listeners know of. Dan Abrams, his sister was the one who presided over the trial of Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, and Bevan Cooney and all these other people, Jason Galanis. And so the play here is very interesting because, number one, it doesn't meet the statute bar for intimate images. And then they say there's an unjust enrichment cause of action.
Yeah.
And Hunter's asking for all the profits made from this documentary miniseries. And they said it's quote unquote entertainment and it's a fictionalized trial. So that is the only novel legal question. But the key thing is Morris wants paid. And again, this matters to the American public because Morris is holding the 10% share in BHR, which is the state-backed investment fund, which is the most important finding on the laptop.
In China, just to be clear, the state you're referencing is China. China owns
I should say
this
that,
company.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and they're not just any state, right? Most humans explicitly live in this state, and they founded this with Hunter back in 2013. In 2021, Kevin Morris, quote unquote, buys this 10% stake from Hunter when in fact all he did was subsume the debt because hilariously for finance people, this will be funny for them. Hunter never even put up his own liquid cash to get the 10%. What he did was another partner in the deal, a Chinese person named Jin Wang, lent Hunter the money, and then the annual distributions from that went to pay Jin Wang back. So not only did they give Hunter a 10% carve out in a multi-billion-dollar Chinese state-backed fund, they didn't even make him put up the liquid cash. Now, hilariously, they made Archer put up the liquid cash, which just goes to show their priority. Right. Archer was just the handsome guy who actually knew business, whereas Hunter was the complete figurehead. They didn't expect him to know anything in finance. And so they didn't even make him put up the cash because he didn't have it.
That equity stake in that firm, they weren't even going to really divest from it, I don't think, but it was the New York Post, Stephen Nelson, I believe, and just maybe another reporter or two who just kept asking the White House, when is Hunter going to divest from this thing? When is Hunter going to divest? The Biden family owns a Chinese equity stake. It was so crazy. Finally, under that public pressure, to the extent that any existed at all, they did, quote, divest, and it went right to the guy we now know as Hunter Biden's sugar brother, Kevin Morris, who's owned it during this time.
Yes, and there is nothing stopping Kevin from giving it back to Hunter. And a liberal professor at the University of Chicago in 2019 appraised that 10% stake. His name's Stephen Kaplan. This is actually on factcheck.org. This was a liberal outlet who asked him for comment because BHR came up in impeachment number 1 because DJT was talking about, hey, the son got 10% of BHR and he knows nothing about finance. He has 2 Excel documents on his laptop and he's supposed to be a financier and his laptop covers 11 years of his life and he has 2 Excel documents. That was appraised by Stephen Kaplan at UChicago, a revered professor at the Booth School of Business, at anywhere between $6 to $12 million. And that was in 2019. And so my group, Marco Polo, which was the first in the world to reveal that Kevin Morris had bought it, the exclusive, we gave it to Breitbart and Miranda Devine at New York Post. Back in April 2023, we got an insider at BHR to send us all of these internal documents. It was nuts. Mm-hmm. They just came across our Proton Mail. And Kevin, and that basically proved that Kevin Morris has as collateral his liquid cash in loans, because remember, it would have been politically unpalatable for Hunter to sell that BHR stake. It's like the golden goose. So if in fact Hunter, to our contention, never repays Kevin the liquid cash back, Kevin can then go sell that 10% stake for almost the exact amount that Hunter owes him in liquid cash. So that's his collateral. So it must be that Kevin wants to hold on to the 10% and thinks it might appreciate and is trying to get it through another means, which is litigation, lawfare. And it's disgusting, and they're going after Fox to do it. So guess what? Kevin's probably trying to make money back with interest, because if he gets Fox to settle, he could get 10 to 15 million from that, and you still have the 10% of BHR left.
So Garrett, first of all, thank you for all this. It was such good information, all of it, and it's a good reminder of so many things that have happened during the Biden era. Excuse me. Before you go though, why is Hunter fighting so hard right now for his father to stay in office? That's really the key question. He's the guy who seems to be fighting the hardest, maybe second only to Jill. Why is that happening?
It is, and I missed your New York. I should have addressed it, and I thank you for bringing it back up. I think he is the number 2 person, and because besides Jill, Hunter has the most to lose from his father's dropping out of the race. For example, I was at the trial every day in Delaware. He's got 3 felony convictions and a sentencing coming up in October in Delaware. He's got a 3-week criminal trial, which I will be present at in Los Angeles in September. If Joey bows out before then, or God forbid croaks, which is a real possibility. Remember, he's had 2 aneurysms. He could have an aneurysm tomorrow, in which case it's going to be really bad for Hunter, because Hunter needs to be commuted, preferably, after the election, but before Joe croaks.
Right. So I've definitely had this thought. And it's a tough thought to have, but I've definitely had this thought, like, man, they're rolling the dice. If they're waiting to do this pardon until after the election or something, that is a dice roll.
It is. He's 82. He's 81. He turns 82 on November 20th. And heck, it might even be a birthday present Joe gives him, even though he's the one turning 82. November 20th is pretty much when they want it to happen, because this is all political. It's all an optics game. He can't do that before the election, because and if he stays in, it'll look so bad. Now, if Joe somehow bows out and lets another person run, which again will be to Jill's great displeasure, then that means he can do it tomorrow, the pardon. But they do not want to be put in a situation where Joe is running again, but has to pardon Hunter before the election, because it'll just be so blatant that nepotism is the name of the game.
Right.
And Hunter, which is what he's counting on. Steve Bannon, he's in Danbury prison right now.
Yes.
Hunter does not want to be in that position, even though he'll request to be put in a coastal area in California. But I think, hey, this is my last value add. The trial in September is much more important and carries much heftier penalties. I think a just sentence in Delaware, because we're fair, is anywhere between a year to 2 years. And that's not anywhere towards the maximum. As a quote-unquote first-time federal offender, the maximum is 25, but he will get nothing approaching that. Mary Ellen Noreika, the judge, gave a year to somebody convicted on one of the three statutes in May. And so I think he'll get no more than 18 months. And with good behavior, that could be even less than a year. However, with this September trial in LA with the tax evasion, you're looking at serious time. It could be anywhere like around 10 years. So it's more essential that he gets commuted for any potential sentence if he gets found guilty in that vis-a-vis Delaware.
Yeah, well, not if Biden. Joe Biden might be able to stop it, but the clock is running out. That's for sure. Hey, Garrett Ziegler.
It's a weird position.
It's a very weird position. What a weird time we're living through. Garrett Ziegler, Marco Polo, and also former Trump White House advisor to Peter Navarro. Speaking of guys who've been imprisoned by the Biden administration. Garrett, thank you, sir. Good to have you with us. Okay, coming up, I want to talk a little bit about what the signals are that the left is looking to figure out whether or not they want to throw a hook around Biden and drag him out of the race entirely. It turns out more of those signals are coming through literally as we speak. Some breaking news to share with you. Also, the vultures on the left who are now circling Joe Biden and saying, no, presidency? Me? I would never. The details ahead. Hey, good afternoon to you. 434 here at News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up 5 o'clock, John Vecchione's here from the New Civil Liberties Alliance. We'll talk about last week's big Supreme Court decision, one of them, overturning something called the Chevron Doctrine, which is a fancy way of saying tyranny by federal agencies. It's a huge decision and a great restoration of the constitutional republic. John Vecchione will talk about that. Mark Hemingway is here at 5:30. We talk about the lies our media tell. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. A post-debate poll in New Hampshire, I said New Hampshire, shows that Donald Trump is now leading Joe Biden 44-42. A 2-point advantage in New Hampshire. Joe Biden won New Hampshire 52-45. This is a very interesting time we're living through, isn't it? President Trump dominating their WMUR with the report out this afternoon. A new poll shows President Joe Biden now trailing former President Donald Trump among New Hampshire registered voters by 2 points. The St. Anselm College Survey Center polled more than 1,700 registered voters in the first 2 days after the recent presidential debate. 44-42. Another 4% said they plan to vote for independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The poll has a margin of error of 2.3 percentage points. The results show a significant swing since the last St. Anselm College poll in December, which showed Biden up by, you ready for this? 10 points. So that survey has moved from Biden plus 10 to Trump plus 2, the survey data collected in the wake of last Thursday's debate. New Hampshire, what? We'll see if it holds. We'll see if it's an outlier. We'll see what it means. But it's not alone. There's also a survey just out Pennsylvania by Signal Polling and Analytics, finding that Donald Trump right now is up by 4 points in a head-to-head contest against Joe Biden among likely voters. That's a more drilled-down version. There's registered, there's likely. Likely voters giving Trump a 4-point advantage in the Keystone State. Trump is also up by 4 points against a crowded field. So against Biden, Kennedy, Jill Stein, Cornel West, he maintains a 4-point advantage over Joe Biden. That is the news there. That's kind of fascinating. So we'll keep, as we always do, keep an eye on the polling data, what it means. I know there are a lot of people who say polls mean nothing. You know, some people think the polls are completely rigged. Look, you do what you can with these surveys. Some of these guys have a good reputation. You bounce them off against the actual results, and you get something. And others, not so good. But, it does look like, as far as voter sentiment is going, it's heading in Trump's direction. Now, does that mean that the left isn't going to meddle and create all sorts of problems? Absolutely not. In fact, it increases the incentives for that very thing, as you see the survey data. But what it will do is it'll freak the hell out of Biden donors. So when you see a poll, let's just discount the Pennsylvania one for a moment because it's a 4-point spread, swing state. You know, they're going to probably look at that and go, okay, it's one poll. New Hampshire, if New Hampshire really went from Biden plus 10 to Trump plus 2, especially in the wake of that debate, Democrat donors are picking up the phone right now and saying, I'm out. No mas. Replace him. And do it quickly. So this is one of the signals that the left's party elders, and believe me, they have party elders, they're looking for. They see polling data like this, panic. And we've been waiting for these first few surveys in the wake of the debate. That's where they survey voters after the debate is concluded. Now we're beginning to get the results, and they are not good for Joe. They're not good for Joe, and they're creating incentives for them to toss this guy as expeditiously as they possibly can. So there's that. Also, Tucker Carlson had a very interesting report. Early this morning, he is traveling back from his great tour down under. He was in Australia for a couple days. And let's see. He tweeted this morning. Obama's tweet supporting Joe Biden. Okay, yeah. So Obama tweeted on Friday, support for Joe. So did Bill Clinton. Not a mistake, not an accident that they all started coming out to try and calm down the braying mob that is the left. Settle down, boys. Settle down. And girls and they-thems. Settle down, they-thems. Everything's going to be fine. Obama's tweet supporting Joe Biden was disingenuous, writes Tucker. Obama is telling people Biden can't win. He's attributing this, by the way, to a, quote, unusually good source, and I would trust Tucker on this. In private, Obama is telling people Biden can't win, and he is therefore in favor of an open convention. Obama will not say whom he supports, nor as of yesterday afternoon had he met personally with Biden to deliver the message. Relations between the Obamas and the Bidens have never been warm. At times, they've been hostile. But recently, they've deteriorated further, mostly due to Jill Biden. In the hours and days after the debate, she kept her husband cloistered away from anyone who might convince him to drop out. Jill Biden is the driving force behind her husband's re-election campaign, just as she was in 2020, when other members of the family, including Biden's sister Val, considered him too impaired to run. The next generation of potential Democrat candidates understands all of this as an opportunity, and they're circling, particularly Gretchen Whitmer, who is promoting herself aggressively. Now, on this Gretchen Whitmer business, Whitmer, boy, first of all of the vultures who are circling Biden right now on the left, they're all the COVID tyrants. In particular, Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom. They're the people who were a part of destroying the country during COVID and really taking advantage of their power in order to rob Americans of their liberty. Powers that they didn't even have. Gretchen Whitmer was roping off the seeds at hardware stores, preventing people from gardening during COVID. Gretchen Whitmer. So here's what we have today from Politico, and this is being disputed. Gretchen Whitmer is disavowing all of this. It's not true. I'm not trying to become president. What else would she say? What else would Gretchen Whitmer say right now? Yeah, it's true. I'm trying to stab him in the back. I really want to be president of the United States. Of course she wouldn't say that. Of course she would lie about her ambitions. But you can tell. Look, you don't need deep reporting on this. You can stare at that woman's crazy eyes and know that she wants to be president of the United States. Of course she does. Let's see here. Politico's got this report today. When Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer telephoned a senior official with President Biden's campaign on Friday night, she wanted to convey a clear message. She hated the way her name was being floated as a replacement for Biden, and she was not behind the chatter. Sure. Whitmer's conversation with the official campaign chair, Jennifer O'Malley Dillon, was cordial, but awkward by its very nature. In the aftermath of the president's disastrous debate performance Thursday, no would-be replacement has been the recipient of more wish-casting among despairing Democrats than the second-term Michigan governor. I love this. What is Kamala Harris thinking of all of this? As Democrats are like, you know who I really want to be president? Gretchen Whitmer. Ugh. Gretchen Whitmer. She's just as awful as Kamala. Whitmer, recognizing as much, disavowed the draft Gretch chatter. Gretch. She used the call to reiterate her commitment and willingness to help the president, but also voiced her concern about how much more difficult the campaign would be now for Biden. I'm told by a person familiar with the call. Even more revealing is how word of the call reached me, writes the political writer. Who's the political writer here? Jonathan Martin, who references himself. It reached me from someone close to a potential 2028 Whitmer rival for the Democratic presidential nomination. Ooh. This person said Whitmer had phoned O'Malley Dillon with more of an unambiguous SOS to relay that Michigan, in the wake of the debate, was no longer winnable for Biden. So Whitmer is apparently telling Democrats, yep, Michigan's gone. No win for Biden. And the implication is, I'm the only one who can win it. Go with me. Go with me. So Gretchen Whitmer, champing at the bit, wants to be president of the United States, would like to trample over Joe Biden's body and make her way into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Now's her time. She doesn't even have to go before the voters. You could just have the grand poobahs in the Democrat Party select her at a contested convention, and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, Gretchen Whitmer becomes the nominee, and then, in her vision, the president of the United States. That's her plan. Now, she's disavowing all of this today. I would never. I would. Me? No. I would not do that. In fact, she had a tweet. I'm pulling it up now. She just in the last hour or so where she's cursing. That's how insistent she is that she would never do this. She writes, anyone who claims I would say that we can't win Michigan is full of beep. Let's go, she said. Let's go. Mm-hmm. What do you mean we, by the way? The video that accompanies it does say that we're all for Joe Biden. Okay. All right, so Gretchen Whitmer obviously wants to be president. Can't wait for Joe to be out of the way. There's also Gavin Newsom. You know, greasy Gavin Newsom has wanted his whole life to be president of the United States. In a scenario where voters don't actually have to make the call, especially in the Democrat primary, boy, that sounds really appealing to Gavin Newsom. Really appealing. He could just skip the primary. He could be made the nominee like that. You know, get the hair grease ready, brother. This is your chance. So Gavin Newsom, it was funny because on Thursday night, did you notice that there were no Biden surrogates entering the spin room for like almost an hour? The spin room, after the debate, reporters descend upon the spin room and they talk to the representatives from the campaign, perhaps the candidates themselves, kind of get a reaction, some feedback on what they think of how the debate went. The room was packed with Trump surrogates. Trump surrogates were out there, all of them. They were all talking to the press. They all had good things to say. Oh, that went great. Joe Biden's awful. The press is talking to them. No Biden surrogates. Nobody. And finally, out comes wandering two Biden surrogates. Two. Gavin stinking Newsom and Raphael Warnock, senator from Georgia. The Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock. They both walk out and they finally come out to represent Biden and they're like, Biden's great, Trump lies, blah, blah, blah. But these two men, it's funny, they're on the short list for exactly what the left wants. They want those guys to be president. They want them. And they want to be president. They want it desperately. Not unusual for senators. Who came up with that? You know, when a senator wakes up in the morning, he looks in the mirror, he sees the next president of the United States. You know, this is clearly an appetite among political figures, for sure. But boy, those two in particular, they really want it. And Raphael Warnock, you can kind of see the case that the left might make for him, which is like, oh, well, if we're going to skip Kamala Harris, we should pick another black person, so maybe him. But he's not a woman, or at least not yet. He doesn't identify as one. So that may be a problem for him. But as so long as we're playing the parlor game of figuring out who's next, He's on the list. He's on the list. Now, with Gavin Newsom, he's absolutely a COVID tyrant, and he had that put in his face this past week by Adam Carolla. I do not know. Adam Carolla, who has a podcast, he's a comedian. He doesn't like tyranny. I don't know how this ended up happening, how these two men could end up on the same television network speaking to one another. I don't understand it. Adam Carolla, longtime California resident, absolutely hates what the left has done to his state. And in 2013, he had Gavin Newsom on his podcast, kind of infamously now. And he called him out for the tyranny then. So let me flash back first, and then we'll talk about what happened just a few nights ago. Here's Adam Carolla, 2013. Gavin Newsom on the podcast.
Half of African Americans in the state of California, roughly half of Latino families, have no access to a checking account or an ATM. Things we take for granted. They don't have a checking account.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to sock those things away.
Well, why do we have them?
A lot of different reasons, but roughly half those families don't. Where do they
why
end
do
up?
Armenians have them?
But where they end up is in check cashing places.
But I want to know why those groups. Why those two groups don't have access?
Well, a lot of. Just happens to be that. We can talk about
flawed?
This. No, they're hardly flawed, but they're struggling.
Genetically
Folks are making
flawed.
their word. Hardly, not absolutely.
But okay, do Asians have this problem?
I mean, a lot of communities have. A lot of whites have these problems.
Oh,
but
so that's not just black and Hispanic.
No, but
why did you bring up black and Hispanic?
Because the magnitude is ominous.
But why so many of them?
It just happens to be the magnitude.
That's the way God planned it?
Not at all.
Well, what happened to them?
There are a lot of issues, and that the communities are struggling. A lot
why
of new
are they
immigrants.
Struggling?
A lot of different reasons. Lack of opportunity.
Have been here. Blacks have been here longer than we've been here.
Well, we can surmise.
What about Asians? They were put in internment camps.
Yeah, in fact, it all initiated out of San Francisco.
All right.
The Chinese Exclusion Act came out.
So
Are they the
check cash? Are they the check cash?
A lot of Asians certainly do.
Oh, so why don't you conclude them?
The only reason why is the magnitude.
Well, there's so many more.
The magnitude in percentage.
But there's no way to figure out how that happened.
Africa. We could talk about it. You know what I'm dealing with? I don't want to have a sociological debate.
Sure, why would you?
No, here's why.
Why would you want to do that? Because the person from the Times wouldn't write good things about you if you did that.
No, that's not the case, because I want to deal with reality. No.
You want to deal with reality.
I want to deal with the reality of people that are struggling, people are suffering. I want to deal with the problems in a pragmatic way.
Why are they struggling and suffering? I don't want an idea.
We can hold hands and surmise about all these underlying reasons.
I don't want to do that. I want to know why they're struggling. Why are they struggling?
A lot of folks are struggling because they can't find jobs.
Why blacks and
because
Hispanics?
They're working.
Why blacks and Hispanics?
Across the board, all socioeconomic.
Okay, so everybody's
struggling.
So Asians are suffering just as much as blacks.
The face of welfare is not an African American family.
It's Asian, Jewish, it's all of them.
Caucasian. It's a lot of folks
we're all
in society.
struggling.
A lot of folks are struggling.
Okay, it's unbelievable. And that went on. There was like so much more to it, and he's grilling him on everything, at the highways, all of it. And Newsom was exposed as usual as a total fraud. But he's like. He never sits down for interviews like that. He never has opportunities to exchange like that. I don't think he expected that from Adam Carolla. He thought maybe this is just like an entertainment guy. This is going to be a comedian podcast. It's not going to be a heavy lift. And all he did was ask some basic probing questions. Okay, so why blacks and Hispanics? What happened to them? Oh, and then you hear like he's dissembling. He's like, everybody. Oh, okay, so everybody. So why'd you say blacks and Hispanics? Oh, okay. Well, you heard the audio. I don't need to reiterate the whole point. So Adam Carolla, this is amazing, ends up as an analyst on Thursday night on News Nation, the cable network, after the debate. And they bring on Gavin Newsom at the same time as Adam Carolla. And Carolla's like, well, okay, if he's here, I'm going to use this as my opportunity to grill him again, this time about COVID. Hang on, I've got that audio for you in a moment. All right, so Adam Carolla on News Nation post-debate coverage the other night. They bring in Gavin Newsom as their guest. And, well, here's how that went.
Adam Carolla here. Governor, why did you shut the beaches in California during COVID?
Yeah, I think we all were working on information at the time. We had no basis of deeply understanding the virus. I think they did the same thing.
So you didn't know anything, so why'd you shut the beaches?
States like Florida.
If you didn't know anything, why'd you shut the beaches?
Well, we didn't know Yeah, because people were concerned early in the pandemic. Information was coming out as it relates to how it was transferred, the disease, and people were cautious, trying to keep people alive. And I should say this,
so
Adam,
you didn't let them go in the
health,
sunshine and get vitamin
California
D and exercise, so you shut the beaches. Okay. And you arrested a guy who was paddleboarding in the bay.
On health, wealth, and...
Yeah, any science behind that? Any science at all behind shutting outdoor dining? Why'd you shut down outdoor dining? Go ahead, Governor. Science?
It's good to see you, Adam.
Based on science,
look,
you didn't have?
At the end of the day, the debate tonight...
It's not a debate. You shut down outdoor dining, you canceled businesses, had nothing to do with science. All right, let him finish. All right, go ahead.
Oh, that was Chris Cuomo's show. Oh, that's funny. It's just amazing, all the characters that are involved. Of course, Chris Cuomo's brother was like killing old people in New York. This is like wild. So, and I love Gavin. He's so smarmy. He's like, good to see you, Adam. How about just be a man? Like, you want to fight the guy? Just like say something to him. Adam, stop wasting my time. I don't like talking to you. Every time I talk to you, you bring up this crap. You know, say something. He's like, good to see you, Adam. Good to see you. Okay, yeah. We had, but I love, Carolla wasted no time. And imagine being in Carolla's head. They're like, okay, now Gavin Newsom's coming on. And Carolla's like, well, what am I going to do? Am I just going to sit here and be like, yeah, what do you think of the debate? Yeah, Gavin, Governor Newsom, tell us what you think of the debate. No, of course not. Carolla's like, okay, people are going to see this. They're going to remember the fact that I'm bad at this guy. Also, he's from California, so maybe in his head, he doesn't even care what the audience is really thinking. He's just like, screw this dude. He ruined my state. They were arresting. What he said was right. Do you remember the dude who was paddleboarding off the coast by himself off the coast of California? There's not a scientist alive who would say that dude was a threat to anyone to transmit anything. Anything. Any disease. He could have had leprosy out on the paddleboard. It's not getting transferred. Ebola, you just pick your disease. He's on a paddleboard by himself. I'm paddling right now. I'm literally doing the paddling. And Newsom, that tyrant. These people want to be president. And we should be working like hell to stop them from ever getting close to that Oval Office. They screwed up their own states. What do you think they're going to do to this country? And as they throw Biden out of that Oval Office, every Republican in the country should remind every American just how tyrannical these people are.